Official good afternoon. Welcome. We're so happy that you all are here. We're going to get started in just a second and wanted to go ahead and share the slides from today with you. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in, hopefully put those in the chat right now. Let's see if that's going to work. Are you all ready for school to start? Isha is, she said she is as a student, so I guess our students are ready to start, so that's good, at least some of them. I don't know, Isha, you might be the only one right now. We're probably all the rest of us are having nightmares and in panic mode.
Yes.
But we are very grateful for you all to being here and choosing this session to learn more about ePortfolios. So Trang is going to go ahead and get us started.
Yes, I'd like to welcome everyone to our session on ePortfolios. My name is Trang Abid and I'm at Cosumnes River College, and I've been teaching English. I teach English, ESL classes and reading. And I've been doing ePortfolios for a couple of semesters now, and I met Keelan prior to the pandemic, where we decided we're just going to do this. And so I'm really grateful to have Keelan here, Jamie, and also Isha, our student presenter. So go ahead, Keelan.
Well, I like that little extra lilt to your voice at the end of that. That sounded really like, I was like, I'm listening to the radio right now. Very excited. My name is Keelan Koning. I am with 3CSN, the California Community Colleges Success Network. Some of you may have come to our sessions in the past, so you may have seen me before, but I also teach English at Cal State Northridge. And sorry, Trang, I was trying to let the person in and accidentally muted you. Okay. So anyway, I also have been working with ePortfolios for several years. I think I started in 2013, but moved to the ePortfolio centered classroom during the pandemic. I kind of went for it. Our colleague Jamie, who's here, talks about just kind of like diving in with both feet, and that was me. I was like, okay, I've got to do this. This is the best thing for my students. And actually with 3CSN, I started doing these sessions back in 2020, somewhere around April. And that's when I met Trang, and we were, then I invited her to come to a design lab that we were doing. And she and I began this wonderful partnership along with Jamie, who joined us last year, and Isha, who is my student, was my student last fall. We wish we could do it again, but we can't. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jamie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Cooper, and I am an adjunct. So I teach at Victor Valley College and Riverside City College. And I've now been running an ungraded ePortfolio based classroom for a full school year. So these two lovely women introduced me to those concepts last summer. Wow, has it really been that long? Anyway, so I switched up how I was teaching, and I now have 3 semesters because I ran it this summer as well. So 3 semesters in doing this in my classroom. And I teach, unlike them, I teach oceanography and geology. I'm on the STEM side. And so it's been interesting to kind of get what I can from the English side and tweak it for my STEM. And so, yeah, that's my background. Isha?
Hello, I'm Isha. I'm a student facilitator at 3CSN, and I also attend CSU Northridge as an accounting major.
And she's also a very skilled ePortfolio designer, I must say. Okay, so we would like for you to introduce yourselves in the chat with your name, your role. And instead of a fun fact about yourself, I mean, you can, but maybe just something about your experience with ePortfolios that will help us a lot to kind of know how to drive the conversation.
We have 3D art classes. Ooh.
That's really cool. Okay, great. Well, this is exciting. Thank you for the hand wave, Danielle. Just signed up for roller derby. Oh my goodness. Okay, wear those knee pads, those every pad. Just wrap yourself in Charmin. How about that? Okay, Mark, that sounds good. We get especially excited when our STEM faculty are interested in ePortfolios because they're such a wonderful complement to the work, but sometimes that can be a challenge to, for folks to see. So we're happy you're here.
And I think there's sort of this kind of this belief that ePortfolios are just for English or English faculty.
That's right. That's right.
And we're hopefully.
Okay, so we have one experienced user, so that's great. Okay, so that's a nice mix. We're just going to go over the agenda really quickly. So we're going to start with some community agreements, and those are norms. I'm sure that many of you have experienced them in order to just know, what our ground rules are for the session. We're going to learn a little bit about ePortfolios. We're going to briefly share why we're doing this, which we shared a little bit already. And then we're going to do a Jamboard gallery. We can't do a gallery walk because we're not physically present. So we call it a gallery sit, kind of silly. And then we're going to have a showcase of student, educator, and program ePortfolios. And we're going to have some takeaways and resources. And we're going to do all that in an hour and 15 minutes. So as Trang calls it, it's more like a snack. It's a nice hors d'oeuvre, maybe a heavy appetizer, but you'll probably still need some dinner later. So we'll be talking about some, upcoming opportunities where if you are interested, then you can dive in a little bit more with us.
Thank you, Keelan. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a little bit of the community agreements. And this is a good way to kind of get us all on the same page and get us started. So if you could just take a few minutes to kind of review the agreement. The agreement kind of is a great tool to use with students to help them be more open to engage in the process of learning and to encourage them to be active participants. I think that just the first one, the chat is there for you. If you don't feel comfortable, unmuting yourself, whichever, speak up when you can, and be curious and be brave and adventurous. So it's just a wonderful way to kind of get us all on the same page. So we're going to kind of move forward to what is an ePortfolio. Go ahead, Keelan.
All right. So ePortfolios, a lot of times, some folks are familiar with them, but I know it's useful to kind of have a common knowledge about it. They are also known as an, why is it not showing up on this screen, Trang? That's strange. Okay. Well, anyway, we will fix that in a moment, but I have it on my other screen. So I'm going to look up slightly to the right here.
Is it stepped in?
I don't know.
Like,
Jamie, do you want to try to share your screen? Mine is blank for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically a collection of work, or could be considered to be evidence in an electronic format that showcases learning over time. And I think that that's one of the most important pieces of this, is that it's showing growth and progress in the work over time. When you think about your ePortfolio and the types of evidence it contains, it's important to think carefully about its purpose and intended audience. So we just kind of wanted to share a list of some things that it might contain, including files of various formats, evidence related to courses taken, programs of study. So there are different kinds of ePortfolios, and we're going to share a little bit about that as we move along. There are writing samples, so drafts that show improvement, projects that are prepared for class or extracurricular activities, evidence of creativity and performance. So a lot of folks will use that for their professional art portfolios. Isha is an amazing artist, and so in addition to her many talents, so this is a great space in order to showcase that. And I've had many students who have used their ePortfolios afterwards in order to, with some revision, in order to showcase and promote their own work. Evidence of extracurricular or co-curricular activities, including examples of leadership. So we can use them ourselves also for different things like the tenure track process, different job search. These are all things that we call, like, those 21st century skills. And so one of those, in order to demonstrate that, is to use the ePortfolio. Evaluations, analysis, and recommendations, which can also be included. So there, as you can see, there are a lot of different things that we can include inside of this electronic portfolio. Okay, and we have three major types: the showcase or professional ePortfolio, learning ePortfolios, and assessment general education ePortfolios. So they can be used on a campus or program level. They can be used, a lot of us will be using them as learning ePortfolios if we're using them in our classes, or they can be used as showcase or professional ePortfolios. So programs also such as nursing, different programs can use those as the showcase or professional ePortfolios. Again, we can use them ourselves. We can use them as course sites, which Jamie will show you a little bit later. So there are a lot of different practical uses for the ePortfolio. Sky's the limit, kind of. All right, and our why, our collective why, wow. Well, as you can see, there are some cool things happening here. It's about our students, it's about our students, it's about our joy and engagement in the work. It's about actually seeing the students engaging this productive struggle. You can see here, Jamie provided these pictures of a gallery, kind of a gallery walk or symposium style review of the final ePortfolio. So that's amazing. Some of these you can click on. We see a career exploration journey from career summer days at Pierce College. Some of our students, you can see some about me sections here, and the identity piece, which is another piece that's very, very crucial as we think about our students. This is a space where, and we'll talk about that a bit more as we move along, but a space where our students can engage and feel a sense of belonging in college. It's very powerful. Trang, Isha, Jamie, did you want to say something before we move on?
I think it's really interesting because we also have some images from the design labs that Keelan and I hosted during the semester. And you can't see it, but we're in that corner, a little box in the corner there. And these are from our students. And, why do we do this? It is for them. One of the reasons why I decided to do an e-portfolio particularly was because of trying to just keep the students more engaged, retention. Also, it's a new way, another way to assess them, because there are just some things that the e-portfolio reveals that it doesn't just show up in other ways, right? Like it's a different way to look at our student in a different context. Jamie, you have anything to add?
Oh, sorry, I accidentally went to that website. No, just, I think it builds a lot more community within a classroom. My classroom has completely changed from being the like quiz exam based that I had been running for a long time. Now with the ePortfolios, I see just a lot more like students are actually interested in coming to class. They like getting to know each other. They like getting to know me. And so it builds into more of a fun classroom environment than I've experienced. Being in STEM, a lot of my students don't want to be there. So like when I have students saying that they're looking forward to coming to class, that has been great.
Isha, did you want to add anything?
I agree with what everyone said. Like it does make the classroom more like engaged, like what with the learning process compared to like how a classroom run-off tests would have been, because that would have been a lot more like stressful, and the kids wouldn't have wanted to pay as much attention compared to using ePortfolios.
Thank you, Isha. And Isha was in a fully online course. So it was a synchronous online course, but it's hard to find that engagement, a lot of times in those spaces. And so they actually had a very lively and loving community that still is very, very active on Discord. So they created that a lot of that was because of the work that they did throughout the semester on the ePortfolios. All right, are we ready to hear Diana?
I think so. I can try it. Let's see.
Lovely. So Diana is going to share about institutional student success.
So why ePortfolios? Why have we decided to focus on this? Well, it has been identified by the Association of American Colleges and Universities as the 11th high impact practice influencing post-secondary education. It's an ideal format for collecting evidence of students' learning. It helps us map institutional pathways that demonstrate achievable learning outcomes. It also helps facilitate student reflection upon and engaging with their own learning. And it's a transparent and portable way to demonstrate knowledge, skills, and abilities that our students are gaining as they progress through our community college system. It motivates change in the academy, and it's just overall a wonderful practice as you will get to experience. So how does this tie into our guided pathways efforts? Many of us are in our implementation stage, designing, how we're going to do this. And, it helps us because it provides us a set of practices that makes learning visible. So as we help students clarify the path and enter the path and stay on the path and ensure learning, ePortfolios really can address each one of these pillars. But really more importantly, it really does ensure learning. And then today in our age of guided pathways, many of us have been and continue to do first year experience programs, first year seminars, and ePortfolios is definitely one element that can be introduced into these strategies for success, as it helps with, reflection and developing graduation plans and student ed plans and helping students think about their experience holistically. And also it helps us to think about how we can collaborate together and develop co-curricular curriculum, to help students make connections across the disciplines, help students build skills. And then this also provides a community where students can start interacting together and sharing their ePortfolios. And especially now with us being remote, and we will continue to be hybrid, I'm definitely, seeing this pattern that we help students build a digital community and a digital presence online.
Okay, so that's kind of a good overview of the general concepts. I now get to talk to you, and keep in mind, this is like the most brief overview of all of these concepts. So I apologize ahead of time for going through this quickly. If you want more, we'll provide more later. But what we want you to really understand is that the practice of ePortfolios has been shown by research, by data, to support growth and learning. So this isn't something that we just think it's nice and we like it. It's actually demonstrably helping students. So the first way that it does this is by helping support basic human needs. So we have needs for belonging, for feeling like we've accomplished something, for achieving our potential, being creative. All of these high level needs that we have can be supported by ePortfolios when they're working together, when somebody's complimenting how their page came out, when they're actually, one of my students is like, I'm most proud of just having done it. Like that is helping them feel like they can do anything. We wanted to show student data on this. So human needs, is it actually supporting them? Do students feel like they're being supported by this? The answer is yes. 93% felt like they were seen and heard as individuals. 60.6% felt it enhanced their confidence. And 73% felt like it actually enhanced their success in the class that was running it, as well as 73% again said they felt like it was going to help them with future courses. The second way that we see ePortfolios shown to support student learning is through high quality learning. So you've all seen Bloom's taxonomy, but when we're talking ePortfolios, we're up in the analyzing, evaluating, and creating. That's the highest learning that you can have. So instead of just memorizing some oceanography vocab or something like that, they're actually implementing it. And so their learning is actually higher. Students' data is also showing that they feel this is supporting them. So 63.6% felt that creating the ePortfolio actually helped them reflect on their own learning. And this is something that a lot of students come to me and they're like, wait, you want me to think about my thinking? Yeah, I do. How's it going? 65.2% feel that creating the portfolio has enhanced their learning. So this is coming directly from students who've been in these courses. The third reason that the ePortfolios are known to support student success is through equity. So I love this cartoon. This is like one of my favorites. Okay, for a fair selection, everyone has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Well, if you are the monkey, this is your thing. You're good to go. If you are the fish, your mouth should be open because, of course, that's not going to work for you. So everyone's learning the same material in class, but what the ePortfolios shift is instead of learning in a very specific way, it opens it up for students to be able to use their own learning styles to help support that. And what that means is we get a lot of students really excited about their own learning. 76% felt that the course had supported their growth as a student. 75% felt that the ePortfolio accurately accurately represented their learning, and 82% prefer the ePortfolios over exams. Now, notice that's not everyone. I've had a couple of students fight hard because they really wanted that exam. Well, if you're a monkey, that's great. Clearly, those students are monkeys, but you've got a huge population in your classroom that have the opportunity to be an elephant. The last one that we want to emphasize is the fact that ePortfolios really helps students to become more intrinsically motivated, which helps their growth, both learning as well as just as a human being. And so giving them the control over how they're learning and even sometimes what they're learning allows for them to have more confidence. So 82% felt that what they were learning was an actual marketable skill that they were excited about having going into the workplace. We also wanted to see whether they enjoyed working on it. Like, is this fun for you? 21% absolutely had a blast working on it. 61% more often yes than no. 14% more often no than yes, and 4% hated every minute of it. Once again, you're not going to get everyone, but they have the opportunity to learn how they want to learn. Okay, that was like the fastest ever, and I know that's like not fair because I just threw a whole bunch of numbers at you, but the overall is it helps the students grow as individuals, and the data supports that. So let's move on to our Jamboard. Do you want me to introduce it? I will introduce it. So one of the things that we want you to do.
Okay, go ahead.
Go, Keelan.
No, I thought Trang was gonna go.
I thought I was just posting in the chat.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so yes, thank you very much, Jamie. And I love like how you were able to encapsulate all that information in just a few minutes. It always blows my mind because I actually get a lot out of it every time you say it. Makes me really happy. So we are going to ask you to take 10 minutes to review some quotes on a Jamboard. How many of you have had experience with Jamboard before? Can you show your hands or? Let me see. Okay, so we're going to show you how to do this first. So Jamie, if you could just kind of go to the left. Oh my goodness.
I'm view only, sorry.
All right, hold on one second. Well, probably everyone is then. Okay. These are the joys of the test. Okay, so let me just change our sharing settings really quickly. Okay, so if you refresh, you should be able to open it now and see the editing functions.
All right, over here is what you want.
So this is something that actually I think Isha can share that our students love the Jamboard. So if you haven't used it before, it's a really great tool for a lot of different things. But one of the things that we can use it for is for doing some kind of quick reading, crowdsourced reading together. So what we're going to ask you to do is to take a look at these quotes that are on the Jamboard, and if someone could put that Jamboard link in the chat, that would be fabulous.
It's in.
Oh my God, you're the best. Okay, so we want you to consider what thoughts and ideas are surfacing. So you're going to kind of take a gallery, sit. Some of these are from students. Some of these are from texts about ePortfolios. So just kind of, browse through. And then you can also, if you have enough time left over, then you can take a walk of your colleagues' posts as well and just, share appreciations and such. Okay. So you're going to just grab one of those sticky notes. You can also put a picture for how it's making you feel. Yes, perfect. Okay, so just go ahead and go in there and do that. We're going to take about 10 minutes. We'll see how we're doing in 8 minutes. And just because we're maybe the timing, we want to make sure that we have enough time for the discussion. But let's go ahead and get started. what we're also seeing on the screen here is that folks have already found the highlight slash marker as well. So you can kind of grab pieces of it and share there as well.
Sorry, I forgot I was still sharing my screen. So,
Oh no, I think that's really helpful, Jamie. Yeah, that we like to have it shared.
That was a hint, Jamie, to keep sharing.
We also want to just remind you that that you do not have to read every single thing or comment on every single thing, but just whatever is drawing you the most, and you'll have an opportunity to go back to this later. This will still be here for you. Okay, so is everybody at a breaking off point right now? Will that work? So remember that you can always go back to these when you have an opportunity. This will be here for you. We just wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to dive in a little bit to a few key points that we thought were really helpful when we're thinking about ePortfolios. And there are books about this. There are a couple of books that we can share as well, the information about, so that you might, if you're interested, you can dig in a little deeper. And tons of websites. Oh my goodness. And we have a whole Padlet of different things that we can share. All right, so let's go ahead and move to our next activity, which is my personal favorite. This is where we are going to share and have a little discussion about ePortfolios. So Isha, would you mind starting us off?
I'll be starting.
Thank you.
Okay, so can you see the screen good?
Sure can.
Okay. So this was the ePortfolio that I made for English 115 last fall. Over here is my introduction page. So it's like the welcome to my ePortfolio. I have a little picture and an about me section at the bottom where I wrote just like a short description about who I am and like what my major is. On my next page, I have goals and outcomes for the class. So over here, I wrote a paragraph about what my goals were for the class and for the semester, campus learning outcomes, and my actual outcomes, and also a reflection on all of that. So I was able to have a good reflection of all my work in the class throughout the semester. I have an outside the classroom page, which is more of a fun page. This is where I just talk about myself. So I'm describing like, oh, I'm into music and I'm into art. So the whole page is like revolving around my interests. So I put some like artworks that I did over here and some song links. So it looks like this throughout the whole page. I added some songs at the bottom too. On my next page, I have personal reading and writing history. So over here, I talked about my experience with reading and writing from when I was younger coming into the class. And I'm able to add pictures and stuff at the bottom too. This tied into what I was talking about up here. I also have a major works page where I put my 2 best essays from my class, and they both link to the paper. So if I were to click on that, it would take me to my paper. And then the next one is the blog page. So over here, we did a couple of blog posts for the class. And if you click on one, it looks like this. And the other students were able to comment at the bottom if they wanted to, so they could add on to what I was saying or just say like, they got onto the discussion. I also have an exercises page where I put more work from the class in here. And these are also linked to different pages, which has the entire writing out of here. And at the very end, there's a project statement which reflects all my work in the class for the portfolio. So it's saying like how I went about making the portfolio and what exactly I added in there and for what reasons, how I wanted to design it. And that is about it.
I hope you all noticed those incredible animations. Everybody was very excited about those when they saw Isha's. They were like, I'm not worthy. I have to go back and do all my work over again. So that final review that we did was really incredibly useful. Yes, Isha's amazing. Jamie's next.
Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can use them because I have several different things. So the first is my course site. So this is my Earth Sciences page that I send everyone to, no matter what their class is. And all of my syllabus is basically contained here. So learning in community, what are the expectations for my classroom? What are the communication and policies that we have? All of those that are expected of us to put into a syllabus. I told you I'm ungraded for my classroom. That's very strange. Students don't know what to expect with that. So I have an explanation of what that looks like and how it works in my classroom. Because they do ePortfolios in my classroom, I have a page that is related to how they go about doing that. And then I have examples from previous students so that they understand, because most come in and they're like, I'm sorry, you want me to do what now? So having the examples from previous students helps them a lot. And then of course I have an about me page that helps them to know me better with pictures and things that I like, etc. And so then it gives everybody a feel for my classroom, for me, for how I run things. And so I send a welcome note to all my students and give them this web page to come to. Then if you see on the main homepage, there are different classes. So these are the 3 classes that I'm teaching this semester, and they can go to any individual class, and that gives them the specifics of their class. And so, for instance, I have a welcome video for each of my classes. Their Canvas is linked. I give them links to assignments they can start if they want to before they even get to school, to the class. The course details, like where we're meeting and when and what the course number is. There's textbooks, there's the Canvas link again, the student learning outcomes, textbooks, ePortfolio once again for them to see. And then as part of my class, they do reflections on how things are going, how's your learning process, etc. And so all of this is my course site. That's how I use the ePortfolio. I've built my own ePortfolio that my students have access to. Then my students. So I teach 2 different types of classes. Geology and oceanography are 101 basic classes. And what I do is I make my outcomes, the student learning outcomes, extremely blatant in my class. You came into this class, here are the student learning outcomes. This means when you leave this class, you should know these things. It's not hidden, it's not a surprise. And then they build their ePortfolios based on those objectives. So this is one of my students, Anna. I kept trying to talk her into being a geologist because she's like really good at this stuff. But she is doing, I don't know, engineering or something like that. Computer engineering. So you can go to her about me. Once again, this goes back to that human basic needs. They're learning about each other. They're showing the things that they like and are interested in, her psychotic cat. Then there are the actual learning. So here is where I'm looking at their objectives with them and saying, how well do you feel like this shows your knowledge? So for instance, plate tectonics, she wrote a whole big thing. It's like a website. She did beautiful links. She talked about the Mariana Trench, getting down deep. She looked at how the plates have moved. She brought in animals. She was making a lot of connections with stuff that I normally can't in my classroom. So she was digging into this stuff. The other one that I wanted to show you from her is the time and maps. This she did all on her own. So she took the Grand Canyon. She was very excited about trying to do this. So she took the Grand Canyon and the layers of the Grand Canyon, and then she built a computer model. So you can see she went into depth with this. She built a 3D topographic map of the Grand Canyon from scratch on her computer. And put the ages into that as well. So a very comprehensive thing. So I would never have asked a student to do this. She did it because she was interested in this kind of thing, and it made it fun for her to learn the material. So this is 101 classes. The way I run it is show me you know this objective. That's it. The second type of class that I teach is I teach elementary teachers who need to be able to teach science. So earth science for educators. In this one, what we do is they create a website that can basically act as a CV for them, a digital CV and materials. So for earth sciences, he did that terribly, geology. So we had geology. You can see he's got all of these different topics. And then what I have them do is build for their teaching experience. So they put in things that they are going to need to remember. So here's a reminder of volcanism. We can go to that website here and see what he's reminding himself of. Okay, internal heat structure, activities and things like that that we can get. A poster that he might want to put up in his classroom. They can link videos. And the reason that I wanted to show you his, to me, his layout was not what I would like, but it's his. Like, this worked for him. He's going to remember how to use it. Great. I'm happy for you. What I loved about his, and what I am hopeful of all my teachers doing, is notice that across the top, while mine is there, he's got links that he can put in materials for other classes that he's also going to have to be teaching. And so when he goes through those classes, teaching math or teaching biology or teaching whatever, he can be building all of this and then use this as a, like, get a job. He goes for an interview, he can show this website to his future employer and say, look, I'm ready to go. This is what I have. So I think it took longer than I was supposed to, but that is my stuff. So there we go.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much. Okay, so next up, I was so into it.
I know there's a lot of information.
Yeah. So I think that next, Trang and I wanted to just share with you really quickly a little nuts and bolts piece of, because I know that it might seem overwhelming to think about doing this in your class. And I know Leslie has done this before, and she dove into. So, we have all been at that threshold space. But we have a lot of supports available. If this is something that you want to do, if this is something that you want to try, we are a community who's here to support you in those efforts. So Trang, would you mind sharing just the assignment that you created?
That's on our Padlet.
Perfect. Okay. And that is actually based on the, did I not put, oh, it's right there. The link to the Padlet is right there on the slide 20. But we really got inspired by the Salt Lake Community College website, which for me was a turning point when I saw that they had already created a getting started assignment. And that's where I thought, oh my goodness, this I can work with, because I had been doing the ePortfolio at the end of the semester, but I felt like there was something missing there. And so in 2020, when I met Trang, and I was like, okay, I'm going to jump in and just do this all semester with my students and just try it out. That's when I came across the Salt Lake City Community College work. And so Trang is going to go ahead and show us now on the Padlet.
I'm looking for it, Keelan.
This assignment. Okay.
I know you've put it there. I'm not seeing.
Okay, well, let me just go into the ePortfolio site really quick.
Okay.
And I just want to say that when Keelan says that there's a lot of support, there actually is. I know sometimes people say that and you're kind of like, is that really going to happen? But yes, there is wonderful support if you choose to do an ePortfolio.
Thank you for that affirmation. We try really hard, and Trang and I are also doing the student, because a lot of, when we think about our platforms, this is one of the things that, we think about a lot is, okay, well, I don't know Wix, I don't know Google Sites, so how am I going to do that? One piece is that we want to let the students lead. This is where the community building comes. There's a lot of productive struggle. I learn every single semester, and I'm pretty proficient at it now. But that first semester, if any of my students were here, usually my students from 2019 usually are with us, and they can share that I just said, hey, who knows how to do this? Go ahead, show us. And it was really incredible to see what they came up with. The work is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick here.
I would say too that like it's a steep learning curve, but if you are vulnerable and show your students like, look, I'm learning this with you. I think it's going to like really help you all. I think it's going to be great. I messed up on this piece. They see that you're trying, and they see that they can also mess up too. So I think there's that aspect that it's not fun, but but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it takes thank you for bringing that up, because it takes a level of vulnerability and just, kind of letting go a little bit, which actually is so amazing. Like when you can just say like, okay, we're going to figure this out together. I'm not really sure, but we're going to find out. Let's Google some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just figuring, I've done some soft coding with students who, I never thought I would do that, but there we were. And it actually, something that I can say, I worked with the Educational Opportunity Program for 16 years and walked a lot of students through financial aid and, other elements of the admissions process. And I can tell you that there is nothing that bonds you to a student like doing stuff like this. It is absolutely, and for them to help each other, which is, of course, that other piece of the objective. It's like, how do you create a space where students will connect with each other and do what Isha's class did, which is to continue to support each other. And what do they do on Discord? I happen to be a fly on the wall there. They're in there cheering each other on for their finals. So they have a scholarly community there. All right, Trang, did you want to share about this?
Yes, so I think a lot of people ask me like, well, how do you get started? And so what I do is I construct a Canvas assignment that asks them specifically just to kind of get started, like what are some things that they could do to get started? And I list out some of the steps, like picking a platform. And we recommend Wix and Google Sites. That's the most where to start, just to give them suggestion. Some people like to give them specific sites, like you're just going to do this or this, but I wanted to give students kind of a variety or a choice. And then I kind of laid out kind of like like a template, right? You want an about me section, you want some goals and outcomes, a place for blogs, just so that the students had an idea of what to kind of do to start, almost like to create a shell for their work. At the beginning, I usually do this at the beginning of the semester. So some people jump in the middle, some people do the ePortfolio towards the end as their final project. I wanted to have the students do it kind of throughout the semester and kind of work on it a little by little. That way they weren't too overwhelmed when they had to submit it towards the end. But I know that wherever you want to be, the students will follow you. They kind of do their thing, and then I created a rubric for it. So, and they can add more. So they'll get it started at the beginning of the semester, and maybe in like the second week, they'll add more to specific content pages. Now it's bigger, like here, let's add a blog, or let's add more to, your goals. And I kind of give them some things to kind of consider, like their audience, theme, a purpose for why they're showcasing. So just to kind of guide them, and this kind of aligns along with some of your outcomes too. It can align where you want them to demonstrate a specific skill, like audience awareness, or creativity, critical thinking, or focus, right? So all of those things are kind of like what I keep in mind as they're developing their ePortfolios, and to emphasize that they can revisit it, because a lot of times what will happen is that if we don't kind of help them see that process, they'll just kind of put it on the back burner and they won't come back to it. And isn't that part of their learning too? It's like you're reiterating some of that process, right? It's not just one and done. You have to kind of go back to it, add to it, improve, add to it again. It's a skill. We're teaching them a skill, not just something that they're just going to memorize and throw away. So this is an example of one of the very first assignments that I have them do.
Thank you so much. And embedded in this, as we mentioned, usually the first week or the second week, we have our first design lab for students so that they have the opportunity to work together. I have had Saba from Wix, one of the Wix education people, come and do a workshop with the students. And Trang and I started partnering in the fall of 2020 to bring our students together and actually across the campuses, which really enriches their experience. And Trang has some great, kind of anecdotal evidence of how that works. But I see that Jamie has unmuted herself.
Oh, I was just going to say you can build feedback into your classroom as well, so students are have work time during class to be helping each other in how to do things, particularly that first week when they're kind of like, well, so building in work time throughout helps as well.
Trang, did you want to share about Angelica?
Yeah, so I had a student that was working on her ePortfolio. She was really ambitious, and then we did a design lab together. So this is where Keelan, myself, a couple of student designers set up a time outside of the classroom, and it could be during class too. And we invited the students to attend. And one of the student designers showed, how to add an image, but to have it move, like kind of like rotate images in their ePortfolio. And so my student was very fascinated by it. So she asked her how to do it in a breakout room, and then she applied it in her own ePortfolio. So the student designer got to see how they helped that student enhance their ePortfolio. So it's a way of kind of helping students become more in control of their learning, and also how they can be the expert and then show others how to be experts themselves. So it's a really interesting process, to have that kind of space for them, where it's not just you being the expert, where students are the experts and then they help each other. I think it's really hard too to relinquish that control a little bit, because I like things to be structured as well, but just to say, okay, it's okay that I don't know everything. We'll learn it together, or a student will teach me how to do something. I think that's really challenging, but it's a way to kind of create an environment where it's more student-centered environment.
Yes, that's right. So we are getting a question from David, and David, I'm going to put a pin in that for just 1 second, and then we're going to answer that question, because this is perfect. It's a perfect segue into our Q&A part, right? So you already knew, you were anticipating that. But just wanted to see, is anybody here with a program, any programs that you wanted to see an example of we have examples of LA College Promise, and also a program for middle schoolers who are doing kind of a bridge program at the community college. So if anybody does want to see those, then yes, and we're gonna go into the Q&A right now. Okay, so if you do want to see those at another time, please let us know. Also, if you are interested in having access to the Canvas site that we just shared, that is in Canvas free for teachers, so we can't easily share it with you, but the way that we can do it is that you would share your email address. You would need to create a Canvas free for teachers account, but that's easy. And I can add you to that. Okay, so just go ahead and share that with me if you would like to have access to that. You can have all of our resources there. And we have a couple of burning questions already. It sounds like all of the instructors have synchronous course time devoted to ePortfolio work. David, are you teaching asynchronously?
Oh, no, I actually am teaching in person for all of my classes. So if I did that, it seems that's why it's like I would need computers in the classroom, it sounds like.
Actually, no. So this is a great question. I think this is a really important question. How do you kind of stretch time, right? One of the things that I've done, and Isha experienced this online, I have community hours. So basically my office hours have been repurposed. They have been repurposed to productive time for the students. So rather than saying like, oh, I don't want to go bother the professor, or just one of them's coming at a time, we actually take that office hour time and use that for ePortfolio work. You can do this on Zoom. If for those of you who are perhaps we're still remote, that can happen. But last semester, I did some online and I did some in person. So I just basically found a room. It was a little easier last semester than it probably will be this semester, but I found a room, and we used that as our permanent room for community hours. So the students came together and we worked on whatever they wanted to work on, but especially on the ePortfolios. So that was something, but Trang, on the other hand, like embeds that into course time. And Jamie, you and Trang can talk about that piece.
So I embed mine into time. And so, yes, they do need computers. One of my classes, I've started meeting in a computer lab where there's just a whole bunch of computers. So whether they have one or not, their desktops are there. The other two classes I teach tend to be a little smaller, and one has laptops close by, so I can borrow one of those. And then the other, I just tell them, I tell all my classes, like, this is ePortfolio based, so you really do need a laptop. But both of my colleges have free laptop borrowing programs. And so as long as they know ahead of time, like, I need my computer, then you can talk to them like, if you don't have your own laptop, like, let's get you set up with that program. And so I don't do it all the time. And some of them, I had one student who refused to use a laptop. He used his phone every single time. And I was like, okay, I'm just getting old here, I guess. But like, that seems horrible. But for him, it worked. And so I'll have some times where they're looking or doing something on their phones instead of their laptops. But for the most part, most students have a laptop of some sort that they can bring. I've had very few that I needed to find that program for, but it is there, for that reason. But it does work. They get used to it.
I just want to kind of piggyback off of Jamie's comment. So I think I also had some students that did it on their phones because that's what they were most comfortable with. And I designate some time in the classroom where it's dedicated to the ePortfolio as well, since it's a component of the class, right? It's a component of the assessment. And it's also instead of like a final exam essay type of thing, they submit an ePortfolio. So that's why there is time designated for the ePortfolio so that they can get started. It jumpstarts their process. It also gives them a little bit of help inside the classroom, and then they're still expected to kind of do additional work outside the classroom, right? To work on the ePortfolios, which is, we can have, we also designated some time, extra credit time, where they can Zoom in for a design lab where we come together from different classes, students from other campuses, where they're sharing their ePortfolios and what they're doing so that they can see different models and what other people are doing. I don't know if that answers your question, David. Hope that does, yeah.
Okay, and we have another question, which is, and Kelsey's mentioning that there are some English classrooms that are equipped with Chromebook carts as well, so that's helpful. It is nice to do the extra credits. I was actually against the extra credit idea before Trang kind of convinced me that it was a good, I was like, but we're helping them, like extra credit, I was like extra credit on top of the gift that we're giving them. But actually it's very, very interesting. And I can say that what's very interesting about the ePortfolio sessions is a little bit different than other kinds of extra credit, is that, you know, if you, for instance, for writing courses, if you tell your students like, oh, you can get extra credit for going to tutoring, the population of students that usually go to tutoring are the students who are already doing fine, right? You know, they're getting those extra points. But for the ePortfolio sessions, very, very interesting. Like a lot of the students who are going to the ePortfolio sessions are often the students that are struggling the most. And so you're actually able to reach them in ways that are very, very affirming. And this is something that for, you know, again, when we're talking about Jamie's examples of, you know, the different levels, when we're thinking about equity, you know, what the students are coming in with, some of their capital, what Tara Yoso talks about is, you know, that those different kinds of capital, right? Some of their capital could be in design. Some of their capital could be in some of these other areas. And so we're also helping them to get that confidence that can help them to engage and, you know, and persist in these other elements of it. So I see this question from Kelsey. Can you talk some about how you associate final course letter grades with the ePortfolio work? And this is a really, really important question that I'm so glad that you brought up. I will start, and then Trang and Jamie. Jamie has a very different approach in terms of, you know, her way. So I think we'd like to end with that one. But I actually have it set up, and I wanted to share my Canvas, but you know, if anybody wants to see it at another time, I'm sharing my screen and recording, and, you know, well, not sharing my screen right now, Jamie's sharing, but I'm recording at the same time. So it's a little hard to get into my Canvas course. But what I do is that I actually have the ePortfolio state. So I have a final project in my course. There are 3 different assignments that they have to do, 3 major papers. And so for the final project, that actually is the ePortfolio that they're building all semester. The goal is, and kind of how I frame it, is that this will lessen and ease their stress at the end of the semester. They'll be able to be more calm than other students who are, you know, stressing and struggling through. Basically that the students, that final project is worth the same as the other papers. And then they also have the content. So I've designed that what Isha showed us, that one that's in 2 pieces of the content statement and the design statement. The design statement is basically a rhetorical analysis of how the students have understand how they've constructed intentionally this site that is the container, and then the elements inside of it. They write a content statement about that, And so those are two different pieces. And if anybody wants to see those, I'm happy to share those as well. And those are also living on that Canvas site. So if someone does want to see it there too, that would be lovely. Okay. And Trang and Jamie.
Trang, you want to go?
So what I do, I'll go briefly. I know we don't have a lot of time, but what I do is that I assign specific assignments, like where they're expected to, their part of their final project is to complete the ePortfolio with a project statement or a video or both. You kind of outline what it is that you want in that video and that project statement. And I associate points with that assignment. Jamie has converted me somewhat this semester. I'm going to do sort of like, instead of that, like your ePortfolio, like if you want a C grade, here are the components that you need for that ePortfolio. Because whether you want an A, B, or C, you need to submit an ePortfolio, right? Along with these other assignments, and that include, here are the assignments. So you could still do complete and incomplete. I know, Kelsey, that's what you're doing in your classroom. So you can do like, if you have these assignments that are complete in the ePortfolio, then that equates to this grade, right? Or the other thing would be saying, if you want a C or above, you need to have an ePortfolio component that needs to have the minimum amount of these assignments. So that's how I associate it as a final grade. I would count it just like the assignments as points in the ePortfolio format. Like you're presenting it in this format. Here is my work. Very similar to that binder method in the past, where in the past we'd have them submit like this big binder full of their work. But in this case, it's an electronic component. It's not with papers anymore. That's how I'd work with mine.
Mine is both more complicated and more simple. Because I'm ungraded, it's a very different system. So for me, I have the students do, so the basic is 100% of their grade is the ePortfolio and what they turn in. That's everything in my class. That being said, there's 3 reflections. They do an initial, a midterm, and a final reflection in which they look at what they've done and what they've learned, and they identify what they think they should have for the grade in my class. I've done well, I've done everything. I understand every concept. I think I deserve an A. I'm still weak on these things. And so it's a way for them to think about it and reflect on it. And then I have an individual meeting with each student. Most cases we're on the same page. In other cases, I kind of ask them some questions and we kind of get to a little more mutual place. Then each of my objectives is 1 page for the ePortfolio. And so I set those up within the semester. So if I have 4 objectives, the first one comes at about, the first one is set up just like they do. The first week we do setup. Then every, at a quarter, the first objective is due. The second one is due a few weeks later. So they're set and they have to show something. They have to come to class and show their classmates, and they get feedback for each of those. And they have time to go back and tweak it and, add to it and things like that before the final submission. But those deadlines have helped students to be a little bit more, the ungrading is a learning curve for me and it's working. But the first time I didn't give them any deadlines. I just said, you should be here. But then it got complicated. So putting those little bit more hardcore deadlines. So it's for each objective. And you're welcome to email me if you want any more information about that. I know it's hard to explain quickly.
All right, and we are at time. Danielle, thank you for your message. If you could go to our last slide, Jamie, that would be lovely. And we are just asking for those of you, before you leave, if you could click on the exit ticket here in your slides. That's very, very helpful for us to get some information about kind of what you got out of the session and what you still need. If you're interested in future things, we do want to invite you to join us at Strengthening Student Success if you're going. We have 2 sessions that are coming up. We'll all be there. And then also we have a resource Padlet that has a lot of resources on it. And again, please send me your email, like in a message here in chat, give me your email address if you would like to be added to the, if you would like to be added to the Canvas site, so you can kind of poke around in there too and see what might be helpful for you. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are super grateful for all of you.
Thank you for coming. And such wonderful colleagues.
That's right. You can tell we're very excited about this topic. We could talk about it for days and days.
And we can, if you want to stay by, you can ask more questions.
Yes, that's right. We'll hang out if anybody has any more questions.